If you can come and sit and fill up the front seats, as much appreciated, but we're not going to force you.
But you'll be a
But
lot
you'll be a
closer to
lot
the
closer
action.
to the
So
action. So
please feel free
please
to come
feel
forward.
free to come forward.
Today
Today
we're very honored to host Alex from Stablenode, and he'll share a lot more about his project and what they're doing, especially with DAOs. But before that, a quick note from our sponsors. Thanks a lot, AWS, for hosting us here. And if there are any Web3 projects who are interested to build, there might be some sort of work that you can do with AWS. I can talk more about that later. And thanks Etherscan for providing a lot of the other stuff. And very quickly, we'll get Nick to share the monthly roundup of stuff that has happened over the last month. A lot of stuff, and I think we probably don't have time for all, but yeah, thanks a lot, Nick. Please give him a round of applause.
All right, thank you everyone. Okay, is the mic working? So, November has been a very interesting month. Who here are first-time voters? Okay, lots of young people. Good, very good to see that. And yeah, the election just happened in Malaysia, and I think it was a very, 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 very interesting election. Many, many different results happened. Yeah, I too am a first-time voter, so I think it was an awesome experience for us. It would have been nice if we saw more like blockchain applications for elections, and if anyone has any projects to share, you can definitely include them for ETL to present. So let's get started and show off what's happened in the month of November. First of all, it goes without mentioning that this month has been a very eventful month for CeFi, or specifically centralized exchanges like FTX, which happened to disappear in the course of 2 weeks. From the last poll, I actually noticed that not many people here use FTX. But if you do and you were affected by it, then I sincerely hope that you are doing fine. But so yeah, essentially FTX, when they went down, they essentially affected a lot of other organizations like Alameda, BlockFi, and I think there's a lot more. So in fact, there are also on-chain protocols such as, so there are also on-chain protocols like Serum. So if anyone uses Solana, you will notice that there is this on-chain protocol called Serum where it claims it is the world's first fully decentralized protocol, but they essentially lost the upgrade key because the key was held by FTX. So it's, I think the lessons from this are that the first thing is that you want to do your due diligence on how you essentially manage your funds. It's NFA, but essentially you probably don't want to keep your funds entirely in one centralized exchange which might disappear, or in one protocol that might disappear. And I think the second point of it is that no protocol is so-called too big to fail. So if something as big as FTX can disappear, you want to take precautions on that also for other exchanges. So yeah, next. Secondly, now that exchange reserves are a thing, people like CoinGecko have recently launched something called Proof of Reserves. A big hand to the Gecko team here. So yeah, Proof of Reserves are essentially on-chain proof that your assets and the funds that they claim to have actually exist on-chain. And if they do not, they should actually have some kind of white paper or certification that they actually own the funds that they claim to. Because otherwise, at its best, your exchange thing is just a number on a screen. So there's no actual proof that this is on-chain. And so people like CoinGecko, DeFi Llama recently launched something called Proof of Reserves. So if you guys use like Binance or Luno, you can actually, if they open source it, you can check this information that they have actually shown what reserves the exchange has on-chain. Next, so I actually got this email, but I actually just closed it. Then I realized that you should actually read terms and conditions. So one of the recent terms and conditions changed by Consensus, who essentially makes MetaMask, one of our favorite wallets, is that they recently released an update where MetaMask will openly collect your IP address and your Ethereum wallet whenever you send a transaction. So this means that if you use MetaMask, whenever you send a transaction, your wallet will be linked to your IP address. So this also means that the same IP address where you serve Facebook from, same address where you serve YouTube from, can be linked to your current Ethereum address. So let's say if you have $1 million and someone wants to target you based on your IP address, they could find that same IP and eventually use it to bad will. So what are the options you have? You essentially can choose to You can change which node you connect to. So instead of using Infura as your node provider, you can change it to Alchemy, or we're going to host a recent workshop with, Chen is not here. We're also going to host a workshop with EKL where we're going to teach you how to host your own node. So I think hosting your own node is going to be one of the best and most so-called decentralized way of using blockchain. So then you can connect your own node, which you can avoid being tracked by Infura and similar services. So yeah, this is something very important to note, because if you keep using MetaMask as it is, it means that you agree to these terms and conditions. Fourth is the Shanghai validated DevNet withdrawals. So in ELI 5, what this means is that, does anyone here actually stake or validate Ethereum? How many people here stake Ethereum? Do you guys, no one stakes Ethereum? Okay, I hope, okay, Harry is the only person who stakes. Okay, does anyone actually validate? Anyone runs a validator here for Ethereum? Anybody? So it looks like no, okay. There should be more of you who do that. So, but an ELI 5 of this is that essentially for validators, for people who are mining or so-called validating on the Ethereum network now, is that whenever they lock up 32 Ethereum, you cannot withdraw it right now until this upgrade called Shanghai has been released. So right now, anyone who has deposited 32 Ethereum or more to this chain is now essentially locked. So now they're testing upgrades to enable this validator withdrawal. And so far, they've gotten a testnet withdrawal done. So eventually, the point is that validators will be able to withdraw their stake on Ethereum itself as well, rather than having your funds being locked up as of now. All right, so for local news, Binance Charity has done a partnership with Maidin, a local grocery brand, where they essentially pledged to donate the BUSD stablecoin. I'm not sure how they will convert it to MR and what the rate will be. So essentially, they pledged to help people who are affected by the floods and also people who are affected by the pandemic by donating BUSD stablecoin, and they will essentially be given out as donations and food grants to people who are affected by it. It's quite interesting to see that Binance Charity, because we always see news of it going overseas where they go to places overseas, but now we've seen that they have actually come to Malaysia and they've come right here to help out the local Malaysian community. And all of a sudden, the Binance app is now available on App Store. So anyone who is an iOS user can actually confirm this. Does anyone know that if it's back? At least from what I've seen, that it is back. I don't have an iPhone, so it's like, I don't. But at least according to my friends, Binance is available once again in Malaysia after that partnership was announced. Okay, so for announcement, I'll just have Harif to give some announcements on upcoming ETL events.
Sure, the chair is not updating, but yeah. So for those of you who've had the notification on Meetup or seen the post on Telegram, so some of our friends in Penang are starting the equivalent of ETHKL. So it will be ETH Penang. The first ever meetup they're doing will be next Wednesday on the 7th of December at Digital Penang, which is kindly sponsored by the Penang government, I believe. So if any one of you will be in Penang next week, or if you have friends who are based in Penang, it might be interesting to tell them to go there. It's on our meetup group page. You can find there is like an event for ETH Penang there. You can sign up and just show up there and then try and build up the same community that we have in KL for the folks in northern Malaysia, or at least Penang area. And without further ado, I'm gonna get Kim to come and share with us a little bit, maybe not more than 5 minutes, on ETH Vietnam and the experience. There were a bunch of ETHKL members who were there and participated in hackathons and such. But I'll let Kim continue with the rest.
Hello. Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Kim. I'm basically presenting, few of our members here at ETHKL are joining ETH Vietnam event. I'll be talking about our experience there and what we did. Yeah, let's go with the first one. Yeah. So basically, ETH Vietnam is another kind of like an ETH event, but it's based in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh. It's organized by I think someone from Vietnam, but it's supported by EF, and also there are a lot of other projects supporting there, a bunch of talks, buildathon, and different things happening there. So I think next one, yeah. 12 reps from IFKL. We are joining Vietnam, and that's us. You can see all guys, no girls, gender equality. Okay, yeah. So 12 of us are there. I'm pretty happy. We also have some happy time there. Go to the next one. Yeah, so how's the event? I think it's pretty interesting that we have quite a few talks like L2, Zigalob, Scroll, ZK and Stucknet. We also have multiple workshops. These are just some of them. There are quite a lot of them you can view on the website. But generally, we really like the talks and workshops there. These few of those which I find pretty interesting. And yeah, let's go for the next one. So outside of event, we also have a lot of fun. We have some good food. You can see. We also have met some new friends. We have some futsal events. We have a lot of people there. Get to meet a lot of new people from some from Scroll, some from ZK, some from Degate, and much more. So it's really an eye-opening experience for us to meet a lot of people outside of Malaysia. It's kind of like we are like at the local community, but when we went out, it's another mountain outside of Malaysia. So we find it pretty interesting and get to meet a lot of new friends and build a lot of connections. Next. Yeah, so one of the main things we want to talk about is Buildathon. So I think we have 4 teams join the hackathon among 12 of us. And next one. Hello? Yeah, so one of our friends, work on a project called ZK, which is a zero-knowledge NFT auction marketplace. You can search it online. I'll share the links there as well. Next one. We also have Social Recovery DAO. It's basically a wallet, a smart contract wallet that allows you to add guardians and you're able to claim your funds without access or private key. And as long as the guardians approve it, you can get your funds back. So it's Social Recovery DAO. Next. Also ZK Form, which is zero knowledge partial review project. So it's used a lot of it's a zero knowledge project, and I'm part of this team, and it's pretty interesting. You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it after this. Yeah. Yeah, and also for Sester Wiki, one of our friend Carlos is also working on this project. It's a pretty cool one. It's working on I think working on a new, basically another EIP which is called Diamonds, which is I think it's standard for upgradable smart contract, right? I remember. Yeah, basically explore for that. It's pretty cool. You can have a look as well. The links are on the title. Yeah. Next one. And one happy thing is that all the teams from Malaysia actually went to the finals, and really that's a really encouraging thing. And yeah, thanks for everyone from Malaysia. Thanks for everyone for their hard work and joining the hackathons. And we can see that in Malaysia we have builders, and all of them actually have. Actually, we have a lot of quality builders, and all of them can make projects that bring impact to the world. Next. Yeah, so and also one thing is that our teams get more than $2,000 by team of IFKL, right? Yeah, $20,000. They win more than $20,000, and that's a very happy thing. It covers all our expenses, and even get extra money to probably go for the next trip to other places in other conference in in the world. And we are really happy that builders from Malaysia are able to meet this kind of achievement in the global stage. Yeah, so we're also hearing from others, they are mentioning about, Malaysia do have some talents and builders. The IF community in Malaysia is pretty strong, it's like more than 10 is there. We are always together and sharing our thoughts and sharing about IFKL. And they think that IFKL Malaysia is pretty strong. Quite a lot of them are here. And some of them mentioned that we need to visit Malaysia sometime soon. We do have some friends, before the trip, they didn't think of coming to Malaysia anytime. After the trip, some of them decided they want to visit Malaysia one time and probably give a speech at IFKL and introduce their projects to us. So that's a really encouraging thing. And we really wish that, everyone, you have some time, you have spare money, you can join this kind of conference. If you are a builder, definitely can join a hackathon, who knows, you'll build the next project that will bring a major impact to the world and be proud and brings pride to Malaysia. And yeah, next one. Last one basically I have. Yeah, this is comment. Sorry. Yeah, contact us, do you have any message you believe on mission? Let's build together with us. And also if you are a builder, right, if you are like to join hackathons, and you need teammates or someone to build with you, or you need guidance, talk to me. I will bring you guys to our community, and let's see how we can work together and join hackathons and bring pride to Malaysia and IFKL community. Thank you.
Right. Thanks a lot, Kim. So can belanja us dinner or something soon, right? Can you get people to raise their hands who were part of the hackathon teams in Vietnam? Just I think Vincent, yeah, risk higher a bit. So like if anyone's interested to like just talk more after this about the experience or like have any questions, if you're a student, let's say, and you want to know how to participate, even if you're not a developer, you can talk to any of them. There's a Discord, a few Discord channels for doing building stuff on hackathons. So we can join those later and can talk to Kim and the others afterwards. And unfortunately, I would have liked to get Yudish to share a bit about Algorand hackathon last weekend, but I don't think we have much time. So if anyone has any questions about an Algorand hackathon, I can talk to Yudish over there. Yudish, can you raise your hand? Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. I think a lot of local universities were participating as well. So yeah, feel free to ask him about that after this. But without further ado, I would like to invite our guest for today, Alex from Stablenode, to talk about DAOs, Devcon, and the Decentralized Future. Please give him a big round of applause.
Really excited to be here with all of you tonight. I'm so proud to be in Malaysia. I've been living here for 6 years and just so excited about the Web3 space, crypto, and to hear the amazing things that the Malaysians have been building. All right, let's talk about DAOs. How many of you would like to make more money in Web3? Put your hands up. Okay, some don't want to make money. Cool. I guess you're already millionaires. Okay, how many of you would like to actually keep your funds once you have them? Not just make them, but keep them. Okay. It's very important, you know, especially if you strive for a long time to make it. How do you keep it? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. A way for us to not just keep our funds, but have a consensus and decision-making framework in a decentralized way. So what you have here was something very interesting. The organizers of the event sent questions out for you to share what you would like to learn. So I centralized all the answers, more or less. There were a lot of questions, so I couldn't put all of them here. You can see the topics. So people are interested in what are the benefits of DAOs. You can see there are 13%, 30.3%. And then what's the whale inference with their tokens and how can we mitigate that? And then adoption, is that coming, when, how it looks like? What are the use cases for DAOs? And also, what are the threats for DAOs? And you can see another one here, what are the tools that we can use for DAOs? So the topics are very interesting. Some are basics, some are middle, and some are advanced. Assuming from the main question, which is like around how do we influence and how do we protect ourselves against influence when we have malicious voters, and the benefits of DAOs, I assume most of the listeners or the ones who said questions are towards the beginner side. So my talk will focus more on that. If you guys like it and want more, we can organize later on a more advanced session. Is that cool? Okay, let's do that. Okay. Before we go in, why should I talk about this and why Stablenode should talk about this? Is it okay if I spend a very few seconds to briefly describe the project? Cool. Thank you. Stablenode was founded 2 years ago by Gustav and Du Anam, so a European and an Asian. And both of them have worked for close to 4 years at Maker. Previously, Maker Foundation became MakerDAO. Did you guys hear about Maker? I'm sure that you are pros here at Malaysia, right? So with the Stablenode, the focus right now is decentralized governance. It has not been for all the time. Previously, it was also on as the name says, stable node, so node validation for projects. But now we're focused on decentralized governance, and we are top delegates in projects like Maker, so we get a lot of tokens. People trust us with their voting power, and we vote on behalf of them. Imagine you're a big fund, you have you don't have time to go and vote, or you have your daily work, you don't have time to work. So we take those tokens, and knowing what the proposals are about, we vote on behalf of you. We also work with 1inch Balancer, within the Optimism, Aave, Element Finance, Instadap, Compound, Hop, Safe, and Jet Protocol. So it's a lot of theoretical work, but it's also a lot of hands-on work, where we have to go in, know what the projects are about, and actually make sure then we say yes or no to something is because we know what the proposal is about and how it's affecting the outcome on the ones that are impacted by it. So that's very briefly about the project. Let's move on to the good stuff. By the way, what I'm saying here is not financial advice, and it's my personal opinion, Alexander Popescu, not Stablenode. I happen to work with them and for them, so a lot of my experience comes from there, but whatever I say, it's my own opinion. Okay. Right, so somebody mentioned something about some projects today. And by the way, I love when I'm here, I also love when I'm there, so I like to have a one-to-one communication between us. So I will ask questions, right? And I will also give answers. When you look at these projects, they are all in crypto, right? Or they were. So there are different fields or niches within them, right? So some of them are yield generation projects, some of them were funds, some of them were exchanges. When you look at this right now, what would you say is the common denominator between all of them? There is no wrong answer, just shout out anything. They're bankrupt, okay. VC funded, okay. Good one, interesting. Any other thoughts? Leverage, CFI, please. Unverified reserves. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Centralized. Bingo. Okay. I didn't plan to do this right now, but I love the answer. So I'm gonna give away some ETH. Oops, sorry, some stickers with ETH. Come and claim your. Click. Nice. So yes, let's click. Click next. That's the answer. All of these projects have one thing in common, and that is they are centralized. And I am one of the guilty ones that was a user in one of those projects. I won't say in which, and I can actually ask, you don't have to say if you had funds, but were you like in the past 12 months involved with any of those 3 projects? Anybody here in the room? Not working for them, but like using them as a user. Yeah, okay, thanks for your openness, right? So, but because I'm also learning like all of us, it's something new. Bitcoin has only like 14 years, even less than that. So the cool thing is not sitting on the sidelines and not getting involved, but getting our hands dirty and learning on the process. Cool, let's go to the next point. So centralization, the issue with that is a single point of failure. All these 3 examples that I have given are like a pyramid, and the top of that pyramid is the management of those companies. And unlike decentralized protocols and DAOs, where you can see everything and everything is shared publicly, with those centralized organizations, the top of the pyramid is not clear to us. It's not access to what's happening. Next. So for example, I mentioned Maker DAO. Did you guys know that there is this tool called Maker Burn, where you can see by month how much is being spent, transferred, vested, and to whom? Learned that like last week. As I said, we are all learning all the time. Not just that, you can also see, if you go here and then look for details, where is the money going? And this is all on-chain. And the level of depth is insane. I mean, in CFI, we have public listed companies which share some data. It's nowhere near to what we can see here. And it's all on-chain, and it's all for like the most advanced and the most mature DAO to date, which is MakerDAO. So this is the kind of level of view that you can have. Do you think if we were able to see into, for example, FTX or Celsius or other similar projects, these kind of details, we would have reached the same outcome that has happened like within last 2 weeks? Certainly not. Okay, let's move forward. So let's talk about DAOs, since we know they are decentralized autonomous organizations. Just to make it very simple and to go back to the basics, as I've said, a DAO is simply a coordination tool. You have a decision to make, and you need to coordinate with people that are all over the world. They have different opinions, and they need a tool to do that. That is a DAO, a tool to do that. And it's without a single point of failure. That tip of the pyramid, which is in centralization, here doesn't exist because everybody has equal rights to vote. So that is a DAO. Let's move forward. Who was among the first to talk about DAOs? I guess you all know who is he, right? So Vitalik, but the question is when? So the thing is, like, now we were in 2022, almost 2023. Can you take some guesses when this concept of DAOs was first brought by Vitalik into discussion? There is no wrong answer, right? 2016, that's a number, okay? 13, okay. Okay, let's see. So this is from Ethereum Foundation. You can see there in red, 6th of May 2014. That's 8 years ago. That's a long time, almost 19 years ago. So you can see that some things take time. To this day, there are a lot of DAOs, like a lot of DAOs, but the process and how they function can still be improved to a large extent. So you can see here, he mentioned that he introduces the concept of decentralized autonomous entities or organizations. Let's move forward. Yes, we talked about this. So when it comes to the coordination structure, what actually is, or what these DAOs do? Because this was one of the questions I received, how do they work? So I will keep things extremely simple, because you see we have gaming, we have NFTs, we have DeFi, and a lot of other things in Web3. And each of them go very deep. Like once you get into one of them and you get good at it, it goes very deep. Same with DAOs. We can get very deep and very complicated, but we will keep it surface. So you have an intention to improve something in a protocol or in a project on top of a protocol. So when you have that idea, we call it a proposal. So you make a proposal, you structure it according to certain standards. There is a voting period where people get to say, what is this about? Do I like it or not? That's the vote. Then at the end, based on the vote, you either get it implemented or not. That's the core of what DAOs do. And this is how we make decisions. While these decisions in DAOs happen decentralized, in centralized organizations, there are only a few that get to choose where does the money go. It's treasury management and other things like that, which are managed to the DAO. Let's go to the next one. What are the methods? So there are two methods that DAOs coordinate among themselves. One is off-chain and one is on-chain. When you look at the on-chain governance, it requires either tokens, coins, NFTs, and so on and so forth to be able to vote. The vote result can directly change the protocol code base, tokenomics, or parameters, and so on and so forth. So that is key. Like once you said yes, and the vote period is done, if there is no cooling time, then that gets implemented immediately based on the smart contract. So that's key. Because the other alternative is the off-chain governance, which requires a platform to reach a decision or a forum where you have discussion, and it's happening offline. So even if we get to a yes vote, it doesn't get implemented immediately. So what that means is that the voting results gets implemented by an entity or developer groups which go and code the decision, right? So on-chain and off-chain. Let's move on to the next thing. Who are the stakeholders? So obviously we have the protocol or the project. We have the governance system to which we decide how to do it. We have individual contributors, which are like a person that, and we have actually people here in this room that have shared with me that they are individual contributors, and that's amazing that this is already happening. And we have professional delegates. And this is what I've introduced earlier as a concept, moving towards professional delegation, because there are some challenges with being an contributor. Let's dig into that also. When it comes to professional delegates, they get a chance. So they are basically companies who hire people, which previously probably they were individual delegators, and it gives them the training on how to do this profession. And that sets them apart from the rest in a few different ways. One of them is in-depth knowledge. You can say that individual contributors also have in-depth knowledge. That's true. But this is based on training with professional delegates. You have team intelligence. If you don't know something, you go to your teammate and ask. You go to somebody that's the team that knows the answer. With individual delegates, the issue is that you want to go on a leave or holiday or something happens in your family, and you want to be part of that. You know, crypto doesn't sleep, right? You have Saturdays, Sundays. That's when you get shift in numbers. Let's call it that, right? But within a professional delegate, you have somebody to back you up if you need to do something. And very, very important, using of standards and procedures. This is one of also the things that we at Stablenode focus on, to have standards and procedures so that we make sure that our delegates don't do what they feel based on, how they slept last night, or if the cat is sick or not, or what meme they enjoyed on Twitter lately, but on professional standards. Let's move on to the next part. Types of DAOs or use cases. This was one of the questions, more questions before this topic. How do you actually use DAOs? What are they good for? So you will see here protocols, as I mentioned, MakerDAO, Uniswap are part of the protocol DAOs. Then we have philanthropy. This is a huge, there are thousands of DAOs around philanthropy, and that's amazing to know. Actually, the spirit of the humans, it was also mentioned earlier, right? Comes through this in DAOs, where we have impact DAOs, we have DAOs that focus on sustainability, and so on and so forth. We have investment DAOs, and think of these types also as use cases. Like, actually, I heard about DAOs, but what are they good for? This is what they're good for. They get people to rally among a common goal, and then to take decisions, even if they are like millions, like thousands of kilometers apart. And why I'm saying this is because there might be a thought in your mind. You may have a mission or something you're passionate about, but how do you go about decisions? How do you go about treasury management? How do you go about deploying funds? Through a DAO. So that idea that maybe it's a seed can become reality through one of these examples. Grant DAOs, media DAOs like Bankless, collector DAOs, and then social DAOs. I won't read the name of that one, which is there. There are many social DAOs, for example, supporting women in Web3. Also in Stablenode, when we were part of Devcon or other events in Paris this year, we also organized that. But we are not necessarily a DAO. It's something that we're passionate about. Or subDAOs, a balancer, and others. So on and so forth. Let's move on to the next one. So now we talk about attack vectors. This was the second question in terms of interest among people. So yes, DAOs are vulnerable. They're made by humans. We are not perfect. So obviously, people try to take advantage of that, unfortunately. So we have to build smartly. So when you think about attack vectors for DAOs, there are a few types of issues that can make us vulnerable. One of them is the technical expert. So that one precisely refers to the technical ability of the team. How good are they at finding bugs, using bounties and other mechanisms to make sure the code is clean and is not attacked. The second one is social risks. These are a lot of them. So here is where there is no code, but the human element comes in. So yeah, this gets tricky. If the voters don't have time or don't have the expertise, they just, as I mentioned, vote based on how the cat felt or the tweets they saw recently, then that will impact the quality of the vote. The voting process itself, if it's messy, like one of the comments we got, like, how can we make DAOs not so messy? It's a work in progress, guys. Like Ethereum, it has, all the projects that crypto is like so young. It's a messy project. We have to get used to that. Voters' attention. This was very interesting, and I will share later from Devcon. Somebody was sharing how they were able to pull off a white hack because basically they went into a DAO and nobody was paying attention. They just made a proposal to get funds out for their own interest. And because people don't pay attention, they set up these DAOs and they don't pay attention. Believe it or not, he was able to pull the funds out, but later he sent it back. So very interesting use cases that you would not think of at all, but it happens. So that's also an attack vector. And then this is a bit more technical. Quorum required for participation. Basically, the minimum number of people that should vote so that is a valid vote. And by the way, I'm curious, because for me it was like a shock, a small shock, when I heard the percentage of people getting involved into it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like from 0 to 100%, what would you think is the percentage of people voting? You thought 3%? 3%. 30? Okay. 3%. Any other number? 20? Wow. 40 or 50? Okay. 10. Inside there. So on average, the percentage is under 5%. It's mind-boggling. People died for freedom, and then we can vote and choose. And we recently had elections here, right? It's the same thing on these things. Like you have your if you buy ETH and there is like a proposal, and you don't get involved, and there is like, let's say we make like this scenario where, there is a proposal that is actually affecting the fund. It's not if case, let's take another, let's say maker, right? It's easy, maker. So you have a proposal that is, people don't pay attention, as I mentioned earlier, and then something gets passed, and gets implemented that it's affecting the protocol negatively. If you're a holder of that token, it will impact you also. But still people only vote 5%. It's mind-boggling. So in a way, we can also think about this and like see if we can get involved more. Cool. And the last one is the economical attack vector, which is, as I mentioned earlier, people buy tokens to influence the voting process. And yeah, that's obviously an issue. One token, one vote. There are different ways of voting, so I won't go into that right now. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, I don't know why it's that, but just click more. Cool. So now I want to talk a bit, because this was also a concern for me, like why would founders of companies care about DAOs? Like, man, I want to build my business. Like, why would I want to decentralize it? How is that something? But interesting enough, people do it, and they do it for very good reasons, as you will see immediately. The first one would be, this is open source. So all of a sudden, you don't have to hire people. You have a global community of open source that is contributing to your project. So that's when a mission becomes very critical to why are you building this product? What's your unique selling proposition, and so on and so forth. So that's one reason right there. The next one, it's scalable. From day one, you have access to a global market. People who can join, can contribute with ideas. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Once you go on a Telegram or on a Discord and you ask community for feedback, that's actually where you get the most quality feedback, because these people are playing with their product for their own interest. The third one is obviously being decentralized. So it's a Web3 native, and it's appealing for fundraising. Like, think about it, right? We are in Web3, and you have a project that is centralized. But the whole point of Web3 is decentralization. Like, Bitcoin was founded for that reason. Ethereum the same. We stand for decentralization. So obviously, when your project goes out there and talks to investors, because it's already in this criteria of being a Web3 native project, you have more chances of raising funds. So that's an important factor, because with funds you can do a lot of things, obviously. Next one, it's a trust. Once your company is there, we talked about other projects that didn't raise much of a trust at the end. So with that, we can have more trust. And also, the fifth point, you have the founder's freedom. So also we know that people want to exit in centralized businesses. You can also do that with the decentralization. Because in Web3, obviously, once you hand over your project to the community, then you can be off hands. And as I mentioned, the founders of Stablenode were with Maker. Maker was a foundation. And they've been through the process of Maker becoming what is now known as MakerDAO. So they saw the whole process of how to become decentralized. That's why we can advise and help projects how to do that, either existing projects or projects that start from zero as being decentralized. So obviously for any founder, it's much more appealing to have these options that I mentioned, and these are just a few. There are others, so we will be able to talk some other time for more in-depth information. We can talk afterwards if you guys want. Cool. I also want to talk not just about the founders, what about the contributors, the individuals, the people that, okay, I have some time, I have my full-time job or whatever, and I have some, I want to contribute to a DAO. Why should I do it? As I mentioned, there are ways to make funds, and I started asking by how can we make more money, and then how to keep it. As a contributor, as an individual contributor, we can also make money with these projects, because projects, they give tokens for our contribution involvement, and that can be later on translated into funds for us. So let's see why contributors should do it. Yep, okay. So learning is a huge process. Like, things change so fast in Web3. And I myself find it very challenging to keep on learning, because things are developing so fast. But in all honesty, it's a problem I want to have. Because imagine the whole thing changes. Like, we are like humans, we are part of nature. Everything changes, everything evolves. Look at COVID. It has I don't know, I stopped counting at 3 variants. I don't know, I'm definitely not updated on how many of them are. So everything changes. So that's why we just embrace the fact that we have to learn ongoingly. And we don't get left behind. I mean, the last thing I want is my kids to come at me, and I have to go to them and tell them how to click my phone, how to. We know we all get these answers like how do I send a voice message in WhatsApp? You click here, say something, and release. But yeah, it doesn't come naturally. So I kind of joke about this, but just wait a few years and then see when we kind of start to ask those around us, how do you do this and that? But by being contributors in DAOs, at least with crypto, you won't have that issue. Let's move to the next one. Social network. Obviously, you get involved, people notice you online, you build a social network. This is huge. This is very powerful. And this is in a way offline what we have here. We can know each other, help each other, support each other, and learn together. The next one, public recognition. If you're good at something, then you get noticed in DAOs. Obviously, everything is online, it's transparent. When I mentioned earlier, there are proposals and votes. In between, there is another step, which is a lot of back and forth about why this proposal is good, why it's not, and so on and so forth. So when these discussions happen, that's where you can shine your expertise and get yourself known. Obviously, you build a personal brand and also compensation, which I started with initially, but it's not just that, there are all these factors. So if you want to ask, like, how do I as an individual start, you have to think, what are you passionate about, what do you care about? And I thought also there are thousands of DAOs. You can just Google names, and if they did a good project, these DAOs, they will have their mission there easy to find for you. So you'll be able to join them and then start contributing. You go into their Discord, you go into their Telegram, you read their documentation, and you effectively start participating. This is how a lot of us got started, and this is how you get to reap all these benefits, including compensation. All right. This one is for existing DAOs. Like, they will ask, how can I get new contributors? Obviously, it's a problem. There are thousands of DAOs. Why should I care about this and about that? So, yeah, let's see how. Interestingly enough, this is oftentimes overlooked. If people care about money, but it's not the main thing. So some projects will not have their mission stated, or they don't make a good job of highlighting why is it important for them. The second one is proper documentation. Imagine you are not paid initially, and you have to spend like 4 or 5 hours to sift through the documentation, which is not organized on some projects. And then, yeah, if you want to get more contributors, make sure your documentation states your mission very clearly, your vision, and also states that it's properly organized. And why I'm saying this is because a lot of these projects don't have this, so it's basics 101, but we need them. Supporting communities. Once you have your community there, Discord, Telegram, and more beyond this, Twitter, obviously, and others. Once you have new contributors in, we need to welcome them, talk to them, see what they need, why are they there, show we care, basically. And that will help a lot. Regular events like this one, it can be 2 months, 1 month, bi-weekly, whatever works. But once we have new people in, if nobody cares about them, asks about them, gives a damn about them, they will just leave. They will go to these social DAOs. They will get more attention. So let's not do that. Cool. There was also a question regarding tools. So I'll talk a bit about tools. This one is a bit technical, Boardroom. I will skip very fast through these tools. Boardroom allows you to see what a delegate does or an individual contributor does. You can see how many projects he works on, what proposals he goes through, what he votes, and so on and so forth. So you can have a look at this. And the one that would be most interesting would be Messari's tool. It's called Governor. You go to Messari. I think we all know about Messari. I've heard of it. They have a lot of things, including Governor, which is the tool dedicated specifically for governance. Because in their view, though they do so many things, they realize DAOs are such a hot topic. So they created a specific tool for this. So once you go to Governor, you can see. Go back a bit. So Governor, and then you have DAOs on the left upper side, and you have the types of DAOs and a lot of tags and a lot of projects that you can see. So when you decide if you want to contribute, you can go, for example, at Governor and see, okay, what are the names of the DAOs, what did they do? Just start to research from there. The next one is proposals. Like, once you want to see more about what's being discussed, the tool will gather all the data regarding proposals. And interestingly enough, Governor is a tool for tools. So if you click, you will see that, yeah, obviously, Discord and so on, and there are a lot of tools. And I love to see that there are a lot of projects building and making it easier. Like within a few clicks, you can actually have a DAO already. And they will guide you through the steps of what treasury, there are a lot of missing points that we were not aware of initially, but you get to learn. Yeah, so that was the part on tools, and now let's kick a bit on Devcon. It was an amazing event. It was shared last time, 6,000 participants, 5 floors, hundreds of talks, and this is in a bear market. Yeah, so it's amazing to see the spirit and the collaboration and the involvement. Like, there is this thing like, it's night right now. There is not a single second in our heads that we think there will not be sun tomorrow. So when we think about the bear market, no matter how bad it feels, no matter what funds we have lost on what happened, whatever leverage or whoever, God knows, right? There will be a day when the bull market comes back. Are we yes or yes? Absolutely. Okay, just wanted to make sure we're still breathing here. Cool. So I highly recommend this talk. You can go back a bit. The Future of Social Coordination of DAO by Chandler. Chandler recently became a contributor to Stablenode also as a writer. So I approached him after I saw his talk. Very good, very highly informed. So he's now writing for us. And by the way, Stablenode has a blog with a lot of in-depth articles about DAOs that you can check out. So this is one of them. These are all online. That's the cool thing which I love about the Ethereum Foundation. All these talks that people pay thousands to reach and go there, they're actually online. We can all access them. It's amazing. The value you get, as was stated earlier by Kim, when you go to these conferences is actually you can interact one-on-one, and that also matters. But if not, this is also good enough. Cool, let's go to the next one. Exploiting inattention and optimism in DAOs. Something that I mentioned earlier, how this is the guy that did the white hack trick to see people pay attention, and they were not. And by the way, it was only 20K USDC involved. So yeah. Not a small amount, definitely. And these are just two of the ones that I liked that were related to DAOs, very interesting. There are others also. So I invite you to have a look at the YouTube channel that Devcon has and explore more on DAOs. All right. So I'm getting closer to the end now. Decentralization, that's the point I want to make, because in my title we have DAOs, Devcon, and the future of decentralization, or how the future will be decentralized. In my view, DAOs will play a huge role in the future because of things that are happening. Like 2 weeks ago, something that was considered absolutely impossible became a freaking reality, hardcore reality. People right now are in pain. We're talking about $10 billion, la. $10 billion. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. When we have, that's why decentralization is very important. Like, we can make fun and talk about it, but it's actually serious. When you get your money in the bank, you call the Greek like 10 years ago, and you go to your ATM and nobody's giving you your money back, that's not fun anymore. That's where decentralization becomes freaking essential. So this is what we're talking about. All right. Yeah, so I want to leave you with this message from my heart. As I said, no matter how dark the night is, it will always become a day. And no matter how low the bear goes, the bull will come back high. So we are all, let's say it together. 1, 2, 3. We are all gonna make it. Thank you. Click one more time. If you enjoy this content, consider giving us a follow at Stablenode. Very easy, very simple. And if you like the slides, I can share them to you. Just drop me a message there at Stablenode. Say DAO, so I know it's from people that have seen this either online. Thank you guys for tuning in, or from you who have been here, and I will send you the slides. Thanks again.
All right. So it's exactly 9 p.m. I know we promised we'll have more time for people to mingle, but I think it's a very interesting talk. And we have questions. I at least have a list of questions shared by other people as well. If people online have questions, I think you can comment on YouTube and we can get one of the volunteers to share as well. But yeah, we definitely have questions for you. And Alexander mentioned that he has some free stickers of ETH, if not actual ETH, to give to anyone who asks questions. And the one who asks the best question will get a free t-shirt from Stablenode, which, by the way, will have to be posted, not tonight, but we can handle that later. So anyone has any first question to kick things off? Can you raise your hand?
I have 6 stickers here, okay? From Devcon.
Can you quickly introduce yourself before you ask the question?
Yeah, hi, I'm Christian. Yeah, so my question is, I mean, I think one advantage of, or one disadvantage of decentralized organizations is that the decision making is sometimes quite slow. I mean, in a centralized organization, even though you have a single point of failure, you also have a single point of decision, and sometimes, like, if you have a very charismatic or, yeah, good people, you can really iterate very quickly, and maybe, so the question is, like, how can we avoid in decentralized organizations like just slowing down and basically getting nothing done?
Yeah, I think it was one of the questions we also received, one of those 3% other questions. And it's interesting because once we have the no single point of failure with DAOs, then the trade-off is efficiency. It will take time. Sometimes there are mechanisms in place to make sure that there is no attack vector with these things, so that somebody pays attention and make sure that doesn't happen. So far it is a slower process, but it is one that is worth it when it comes to decentralization. So yeah, I mentioned we are like 14 years into Bitcoin. DAOs have since 2014, at least the concept, 8 years, but it's a work in process. It will take time to make it more efficient. Need to give the sticker.
Okay, I'll go and grab it.
So you take them.
So one question from me, by the way, is and it's a question.
Don't take all the stickers. Huh?
Yeah. This is for other people. So one question from me is, and it's a question that has been asked by a few people within the community, is when ETHKL DAO, or maybe that's another way of saying when token. But the question for you would be like, if let's say some community like ETHKL wanted to form a DAO and they went to ask like Stablenode, hey, could you give us free consulting on how to start thinking about it? Like, what would be like some off the top of your head kind of things that you'd want to like make sure that they're aware of?
Yeah, obviously there are a few elements that we use at Stablenode when consulting on advisory. So one of them would be the workforce, one would be the documentation, one would be the communication channels. So there are a few points to look at. And generally, for any projects, we advise, like, obviously look at the best out there, which is make a DAO. What they do, how they do it, and there's a ton to learn because, again, this is open source, we can see it there. That being said, there are a lot of projects who went on full on, and that's very admirable to see. But definitely imagine, like, as with anything, like building any business, once you have experience, it's much easier to learn from other people's mistake instead of, banging your hand and taking so much time to get to where you get with support from people. So yeah, I would say start with those.
And anyone?
Hi, my name's Tim. My question is also related to what Harit asked, basically when token. Yeah. So when DAOs release their token, they basically just airdrop everyone their token. And one thing I noticed is that it immediately just goes on exchanges. That's what I noticed. Everyone just lists it, everyone just trades and sells it, and no one's actually using the token to vote in the governance to actually make a change. So I was wondering whether that is that a problem, or is that an issue with the governance tokens, or is that just like a natural form of token economy?
It is both of them, actually. It is a natural form of how it's behaving. And it's not just that. For example, it was released 2 days ago, I think, an article on Uniswap, about Uniswap, and exactly this issue. Trying to remember who wrote the article. But the point was whether actually issuing tokens through airdrop works. One of the points was related to governance, exactly what you said, that more or less is not being used for governance. But interestingly enough, some of the whales in the project are still using it and still using it for governance. So to some degree, I wouldn't say everybody does it. I would say some do, or a vast majority. And that's one part. The other part, and this is where the professional expertise comes on, or comes in is actually how do you structure the framework of the governance. If it's structured properly, the people will use the token, or a larger percentage of people will use the token to vote than with otherwise. Because in also marketing, like if you make it gimmicky, if you make it just like this is for free, then so on and so forth, people will go there specifically for that reason and will not care about what I mentioned earlier, the mission, the vision, the usefulness of the token, and so on and so forth. So to make it shorter for you, yes, it is an issue, this one, but it can be solved through frameworks of governance, including tokens.
Hi, my name is Joseph. So I just want to ask, what protocol do you admire the most in their implementation of a DAO, and why?
In terms of?
How they implemented the DAO?
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy answer. I kind of answered it already, right? So the founders have worked with Maker, and Maker currently is the biggest and most mature type of DAO. So yeah, we still work with them in the sense that we are delegates, that we get voting power and vote on behalf of people. But yeah, this is where we look up to and also support. And also recommend, as I mentioned earlier, for people to learn.
All right. Hi, sir. My name is Hao Xiang from APO BCC. So actually, I have a question. There's so many blockchain out there. Like, what's the consideration we need to take, like, to choose the best blockchain for the DAO?
It depends on the purpose. Like, you have these blockchains, but what's the purpose you want to choose them? What do you want to use them for? Yeah.
All right, and I think we have time for maybe one last question.
No. Like, if you can clarify for me the question, the purpose you want to use it, so I can answer you better.
No, just like just the general one. Yeah.
General. I think generally when you choose, personally for me, when I will look at the blockchain, I would look like, why am I interested to use it in the first place? Is it for governance alone? Because governance is just a tool to reach a decision, right? But when I go to any protocol, regardless of whether it's Ethereum or others, it would be like, what's my issue? What's my problem that I want that protocol to solve for me? And after that, I will do a thorough analysis, and governance will just be one of the things that I will look at. There are much more other things, like the team, what's their communication online? Are they present? What are they saying? To just kind of mitigate some of the attack vectors. Because like if you look at all these things that I just mentioned, they were all covered in FTX, but it still failed, right? So what we can do is just try to mitigate these attack vectors to what we can, the degree that we can, and also diversify. Like for me, this was the biggest lessons is in this bear market. Like, and luckily I was diversified because I learned that from Web2 previously. What is happening?
All right, so I think time for one last question.
Hi, I'm Shahid. I understand the benefits behind DAOs and the decentralization of governance, okay? But do you think there'll be an instance where implementing a DAO just doesn't make sense and it's counterproductive?
Okay, I think he'll get the shirt. No, it's a good point because we also get asked a lot, okay, but is there a scenario where, CeFi maybe, after thousands of years of human evolution, centralization has a benefit? And I would say it definitely has a benefit. It's not like decentralization is the answer to everything. And I will just give you an example. Like imagine you need extremely highly specialized knowledge to make decision on a treasury of a protocol. And do you want everybody, like all the token holders of Uniswap, for example, to vote on some detail that might impact the token price? No, I want very smart, very specialized people, like professional delegates, for example, to vote on that. So in that scenario, you definitely need like specialization, and that would be a scenario where I would say the answer is not decentralization for all projects. I'm not sure if I answered exactly what you were saying. It's definitely not a one-stop solution.
All right, so thanks everyone for all the questions. One last one, I think, just to help you shield Stablenode a bit, like how can the community get involved with Stablenode in any way?
I think as I mentioned, first of all, I would answer this by saying if you really believe that decentralization will help you personally and will help the world, then we are very passionate about decentralization. So you can follow us on Twitter because we're going to post more content like this. So yeah, just follow us on Twitter, read our blog post, and just generally, like if any of us have learned something from the issues that have happened with centralized projects, then yeah, let's talk more about decentralization with those around us, including our families.
All right, thanks. Please give a big round of applause to Alexander.
Thank you. I will just end up by saying thank you everybody for being here and for being passionate about Web3. You could have been home watching Netflix, doing anything else, but you chose to be here, so I'm grateful for you being here. And also I would say thank you through the hard work the organizers have been putting for having this being done monthly. I will definitely try my best to make it here every time, either offline or online. So let's give them a big round of applause.
All right, thanks. And so Alexander mentioned that if people are interested in like a more advanced kind of talk or workshop, we can arrange that, maybe even just via Zoom, so it's easier for people to join in. So if people are interested, maybe we'll do like a quick poll on the Telegram group later. And if you're not in there, just please ask around anyone, especially volunteers. They can help share the link. And as mentioned very early on, this time we're gonna have a bit more time for people to just hang around and network. And we're serving food now instead of before. So please feel free to head over and grab some pizza and just hang around and talk to people. And we have to leave by about 10 p.m. I believe. So yeah, feel free to just hang around and mingle. Some interesting people you might want to talk to is, well, you know Alexander already. Kim, who's from CoinGecko. Yudish is a president of the APU Blockchain Club. We have List, who's from NFXT and NFT.my. Yan and Harith from Etherscan. So yeah, if you also want to just introduce yourself, please feel free to come forward and I'll just share you the mic. But no shilling, please. Just like a introduction to your name and your project.